Covert manipulation doesn't shout, it whispers. Nothing dramatic is said, nothing obvious is done, but these tactics are designed to disarm you, to influence your choices, and to shape your reactions and control outcomes without you ever realizing it. It's not a misunderstanding, it is a strategy. But if you know what to look for, you can protect yourself and take your power back. I've spent the last 20 years researching self-worth and narcissistic relationships. As a coach, author, and survivor, I teach practical systems to help empower you. In this video, I'll show you 5 clues to spot covert manipulation in real time, the red flags most people miss, and how to protect yourself. Let's start with the kind of manipulation that's easiest to miss, because it sounds like flattery. The words seem kind, but the goal isn't to praise you, it's to position you. They start by admiring your resources, your job, your stability, your support system. You might hear things like, "You're doing so well at work," or "You're always so calm, you must have a solid support system." And at first, that sounds like praise. But over time, you're going to notice a pattern. These aren't compliments, they're data points. They're finding out what you have that they want access to: money, time, emotional bandwidth, a car, a place to stay, someone to lean on. And once they've mapped out what's available to them, the next phase starts to show up. They begin revealing quiet vulnerability, but not all at once, just in little pieces. They'll say things like, "It's been a rough couple of months," or "I'm doing my best, but it's hard handling everything alone." There's no requests, no direct ask, just a slow, steady build of emotional weight that suggests you should step in. And over time, something shifts. It's no longer just a connection. It feels like responsibility. You know they haven't asked for anything directly, but the implication is clear. You have more and they have less, so you should give. And because you're a kind, empathetic person, that expectation doesn't feel manipulative. It feels like morality, like decency, like the only right response. And this is why it's so effective. There's nothing to call out, nothing to quote back. But suddenly you're giving your emotional energy, time, or resources you never consciously agreed to give, and you're doing it to protect your sense of self as someone who is good, kind, and caring. By the way, if you're wondering how to assess the level of risk you're dealing with, I've created a free narcissist protection checklist to help. Just grab it in the link below. The next clue shows up when you express even a mild limit, something like "I can't" or "I need some space." They won't express open anger. What you're going to hear is subtle disappointment, followed by a reminder of how much they've already done for you. Not something big, not something you asked for, but something they now frame as emotional labor. They'll say, "That's why I washed your car. I know how stressed you've been." Or, "I've been killing myself to make things easier on you." It sounds like sacrifice, but it's not. It's positioning, and they are placing themselves in the role of giver so that your no feels like a betrayal. Not because it is, but because they've staged the scene that way. And this is where it gets confusing, because covert narcissists don't explode. They lean into the hurt. They look wounded. They seem confused, maybe even softly disappointed. And if you're someone who sees yourself as kind, this hits you right in the gut. You don't think they're manipulating me. You think, "I must be selfish. I must not be giving enough." But this isn't reciprocity or care. It's a setup, a performance of generosity designed to extract something real from you in return. And when you feel guilt, it's not because you did anything wrong. It's because they've carefully manufactured that response in you. Guilt becomes a tool, and you become the one who uses it on yourself. And that's the cruelty of it. You don't even realize a boundary's been crossed. There's no obvious violation, no confrontation, just a quiet, familiar guilt that makes you feel like you've let someone down. But what actually happened was this. They presented themselves as generous while slowly casting you into the one who's supposed to be carrying the weight. And because it was subtle and wrapped in what looked like kindness, you assumed the pressure was coming from inside you. That's not your conscience, that's manipulation. Clue 3 shows up when they quietly start rewriting who you are. You're no longer seen as caring, supportive, or generous. You're positioned as selfish, untrustworthy, the kind of person they warned you about. And they don't say it directly, but they'll let the message land. This isn't about feeling like you let them down. This is about being recast as someone unworthy. Not directly, not through confrontation, but through quiet language that reshapes how they see you and how you start to see yourself. They might say, "Wow, you just only care about yourself." Or, "People start off nice, but they eventually always show their true colors." Or, "Guess you're just like everyone else." Or they'll go quieter, less direct, but the words still land. Selfish, weak, materialistic, sensitive, needy. You don't walk away feeling attacked. You walk away feeling misunderstood, like they got you all wrong, like they're seeing you as someone you were never meant to be. And that's what makes it so painful, especially if you tried to be kind, especially if you care about how you affect people. So you start trying to fix it. Not the situation, but how you're being seen. You don't want to be grouped in with the other bad people from their past, so instead of holding a boundary, you start proving who you are, trying to get back to the person that they liked, the one who never let them down. When you hear words like this, it's a major red flag. These aren't things that someone says because they're hurt. They are things that they say to keep you in your place. Clue 4 is what happens when you show up as a human being with needs or limits or exhaustion, and that alone gets framed as the failure. And you're not even asking for anything extreme. You're just sick or you're overwhelmed or you need some space, and suddenly you're being treated like a problem. When someone calls in sick, their manager might say, "You said you could handle this. I trusted you." Or when a mother says she can't host the holidays, her mother-in-law might reply, "I didn't realize I was so unwanted in your home." Or when a husband takes a few hours to go golfing, he might come home to, "I guess you needed that more than we needed you." The request is small. You asked for support, or maybe you don't feel like going out. Maybe you're just sad. And instead of care, you get a response that makes you feel like you've done something wrong. And that's what creates the confusion, because you've only been supportive. You've overgiven. You've carried more than your fair share. So when they respond with coldness or distance, you don't see it as cruelty. You assume it must be your fault. You must have asked the wrong way, or it must have been the wrong time. So you start believing that you're too much, that your needs are a burden. So you try to fix it. You stop asking, you take on more, you perform harder. You do everything in your power not to be a disappointment. You self-censor. You try not to let anyone down. You become hyper-responsible, hyper-vigilant, emotionally edited. You hide when you're sick, you're overfunctioning when you're hurting. You erase your own limits just to avoid the feeling that you've made someone else uncomfortable. And that loop of trying harder instead of seeing the manipulation is the goal. The confusion is not a side effect, it's the tactic. It keeps you questioning yourself instead of seeing what's being done to you. Clue 5 is what happens when you're still giving, but not as much as they want. Even though you feel exhausted or overworked and stretched thin, something in the conversation shifts. They treat you like you went off script, and now you're being pulled back into a role they want you to play by chasing their approval. They'll say something like, "I'm fine," or "You do you," or "I guess I misread who you are." It sounds casual, but it lands painfully. The tone shifts, the approval is gone, and the version of them that seemed receptive or kind has been replaced with something colder. And you don't exactly know what you did, but you know that you're no longer in good standing. By this point, the clearest sign of manipulation might not be in what they say, it's how you respond. So you start working to get it back. You explain, you soften your tone, you make sure that you don't come off strong next time. You stop asking for things, you manage their mood. You try to stay in that version of them that feels safe or open and connected. And this is exactly what they want. More time, more emotional energy, more care, more attention. They want you pouring your resources into them, even when nothing is being offered back. Their withdrawal is strategic. It keeps you trying. It keeps you over-explaining, over-giving. They don't have to ask for more directly. They just make you work hard to get back in their good graces. And while you're focused on fixing the mood, you're handing over exactly what they're looking for. And the more you care, the more you edit. You become agreeable, accommodating, easier to love. You train yourself into avoiding anything that might trigger that next freeze out. Not because they've told you to, but because you've already learned how their game works. Thanks for watching. YouTube thinks you're going to like this video on screen right here, that one by the arrow. Click it to learn more about spotting narcissists and protecting yourself against manipulation so you can live the life you deserve. I'll see you over there. Okay, bye.